Hi, this is Lily with the brand new Handsome Nerd Network. Thank you for joining us at IPL5 in Las Vegas. I am honored to be in presence of Tobias Tumba Sherman and his father, Robert Tumba Sherman, is what they're telling me. The two Tumbas. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Always good to be in Vegas.
Me too. I love Vegas. Should be born in Vegas. I should be raised in Vegas, but I haven't been that way.
So, coming on to saying that both you guys' name is Tumba, how did you get your name as Tumba?
Well, it's very simple. Tumba was my father's nickname for the longest, and I thought it was the coolest. So when it came time to choose an online game handle, I just ripped his off because I loved it. So, if you're going to copy or steal from the best.
And Robert, how'd you get your name?
Well, I had a cousin that lived in my hometown in Glassport, Pennsylvania, and he liked to imbibe a little bit, and his name was Tumba. And I imbibed a little bit one night, and they started calling me Tumba, and it stuck. And that was.
Can I translate the true story? So in case, what he's trying to say politely was there was a town drunk that was named Tumba, and he overindulged one evening himself, and then it stuck. So I believe that's more accurate. Just want to set the record straight on that.
So it's interesting because you have your father here, and as you can see, we see a lot of young people walking back and forth, and we don't really see our parents here. It's obvious that you have his support. How has that helped you in your life journey? Because I'm about to ask you all your questions about your life in a second. How has that helped you in your life journey?
Well, I think I've been in a unique position to have unconventional support from both my parents because I've lived what some would consider an unconventional life. They've always allowed me to chase my passion and my dreams despite maybe not being the best fiscal short-term plan, and it's really worked out. So I'm blessed to have parents that supported me.
And as a father, sometimes as parents, we want our kids to do the best. We want them to be doctors, lawyers, astronauts. And what made you just always go and say, all right, son, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you?
Well, I'm not the type to trying to push anybody anywhere they don't want to go. And I was a little bit disciplinarian, but there was never, and Toby didn't need, I got lucky with Toby. He didn't need that much discipline. And he's laughing, but he really didn't. And I wanted him to do what he wanted to do. If he wanted to play football, if he wanted to be a gambler, he could be a gambler. I wanted him to be happy, and I hope he's happy, and I think he's happy now, and I'm very happy for him.
So, Toby, how did you get started with eSports? Like, what's your background? What made you go all full in with eSports?
Right, so video games had always played a predominant role in my life because I just loved playing games. I think it's like a Sherman family trait. So my dad didn't have video games, obviously, in his generation, but they played cards all the time. So, cards were a very integral part of the Sherman family. So for me, I was raised on card games, and it was a natural kind of move into video games because they really hit in my generation. I had a computer at a young age, like a Commodore VIC-20, and I had a data cassette that had games. And then, I just moved up through PC gaming from Commodore to PC, and just played all the great titles along the way. Titles people don't even probably remember, like Kive, just text-only games, all the way up to all the great Blizzard titles, Diablo, StarCraft. But I always had a good balance. I think my parents ensured that I had a good balance of not just video games, but outside social activity as well. So, but the way I got started in esports essentially was games were always a part of my life, and I had a unique opportunity to be able to take a break from what I was doing and fully dedicate to esports. And I started off at the very, very bottom. There was a gentleman, he's a fantastic guy. His screen name's Simpatico. He started the Amateur StarCraft Weekly. So it was just bronze tournament, silver tournament, all the way up to Masters. And every day we would broadcast amateur players and we would cast them. And I was just lucky enough to get noticed by MLG and kind of worked my way up through to production there, and saw some great business opportunities in the space. I knew that I was never really going to be an A-list caster. I was happy to be a B-list caster. It was a great great year for me in casting. I accomplished all of my goals, but my true passion's always been business. So essentially, I saw an opportunity in the space where I felt that I could contribute the best, and capitalized on it. And I couldn't have done it without the support of my parents. It's tough to say, oh yeah, by the way, guys, I am going to fully invest my life and my family's life into video games, competitive video gaming. That's a big leap for parents. It's a tough pill to swallow.
There's a few things I want to touch on that you said. First, I'd like to know, what's your background? What did you go to school for? What were your careers prior to esports, so that we could see that progression, that journey up to your co-founder title in EMG?
Sure. Well, I went to West Virginia University, and I went for business initially. And I was actually taking a winter break and had an opportunity to go professional as a snowboarder. So I spent a small time in my life. Once again, my parents said, well, if you want to leave school, if this is something you really think you can do, go for it. So I had a shop sponsor, and I had a national sponsor. So I traveled the United States at the age of 20 years old, snowboarding in some of the best areas.
And quickly, how did you feel about your son not even completing the first semester in college and saying, I'm going to go be a professional snowboarder because I think I'm good enough?
Well, to be truthful, I knew my son was not going to be he wasn't college type. I knew that he wasn't going to stay in college long. And we went to Seven Springs in Pennsylvania, and we got him a job up there as snowboarding. And all of a sudden, he became the boss of the snowboarders. And we were very proud of him for that, and he did very well in snow. I think he's very good at individual things, and he's still good. That's where he's right now, individual things: tennis, snowboarding, computers. The things he just told you about computers, didn't understand one word he said.
So on to your progression. So yeah, you were snowboarding. He said you became the head of the snowboarding.
Correct. Yeah, well, I was, so you have two types of professional snowboarders. There's times that compete, and there's also like a coaching aspect to it. So I was both. I competed and coached nationally, and that lasted about 2 years before I felt, at this point, I'm 22 years old. It's time that I get a solid career. 21 rather, I was turning 21. I thought, I want to buy a house. As I said, I've always had business, so a business background. When I was 16, I opened my first mutual fund, and I was always sort of lucky enough to be. I'd like to consider myself business savvy, but maybe I just got lucky. So I knew it was time to move away from snowboarding and get more of a serious career. So I moved into golf, and that was more of a family business. So that was something we understood, as something we knew. It wasn't necessarily where my passion lied. It's the one individual sport that I was actually god awful at. It's a very hard sport. It's a sport you really have to be honest with yourself about. From golf, I moved into poker. It was only a matter of time, I think my dad can agree. Before I moved into poker, I played a lot of online poker, and poker became a very integral part of my life. So started doing some charity poker events in South Florida, and poker and eSports have always gone hand in hand. A lot of professional StarCraft players are also professional poker players, or could be, and it's, astonishing, really, the similarities between esports and poker. So that was an easier transition for me, and just having poker in and of itself online is almost an esport when you think about it, because you play it online. It's a game online with other people. So I made the transition from golf to poker, and then as I said, esports was emerging very quickly, and I felt like the bubble had already popped enough that it was sustainable this time, and I saw a great opportunity to represent some of the talent and see if I can't help further the business aspect of esports.
That's interesting, your progression. So you were snowboarder, golf, poker player, and now esports.
Correct.
Okay. So my question always to everyone is, for me personally, I think it's so hard to find out about esports because I played video games all my life. I loved video games. I played WoW. I played all the console games, but I never really knew about MLG or any of the big events. I just knew, oh, yeah, there's a competitive Halo scene. But so how did you find out about esports? I always find that part interesting.
So essentially what reintroduced me to esports, I was a fan of Brood War. But the real reintroduction came StarCraft Beta. And, I think there was a lot of great talent out there making fantastic content early on. And it really sucked me in. And I have to say, honestly, what hooked me into esports was watching Nick and Dan Cascom. Like, this was when I made the connection to my brain that I don't even have to play the game to watch it. I can just watch it and enjoy it like anything, like watching football or hockey or golf. It's watching StarCraft is right there with that for me. So the way I was sort of reintroduced and reinvigorated with esports was through GOM and through StarCraft 2.
That's awesome. So I'm going to go back to your dad quickly. So you came out to Vegas just to see your son, to be by him and support him while he's on, I'm assuming, business trip?
Yeah, it's full-on business. There's no, as you can tell by my voice, there's been no drinking and no partying whatsoever in Las Vegas. It's all business. I'm here for my clients, and that's it.
Robert, sir, you flew in from Pittsburgh just to be with your son.
Yes, I did. I wanted to see him in action, and I do see him in action. And I found out that 5 minutes doesn't mean 5 minutes. It means 55 minutes, which is, I learned that real quick. So that's about the only thing I learned about this, because it's way out of my league, and I'm very proud of him.
Seeing your son grow and watching him do all the things that he's done and the progression that he's made through individual sports and having his own company now, what's the proudest moment you could say that you have of your son?
Well, I think you mentioned it right there. The proudest moment I've had is he has his own company now, and everything that he gets involved in usually goes full bore. He went to snowboard, and he became a very good snowboarder. He was a fairly good tennis player, but he didn't like it. Football, we're canceled now. We're not going to talk about football. But I'm proud of him. I'm very proud of him now, and I think he's poker. He's a better poker player than me. I have to say that too. And but I'm proud of him. I hope he got into something that he likes, and I think he likes this.
When did it click for you that your son is not the most conventional thinker?
That question, I don't know. Is that a loaded question or what? I don't know what to think about that question. I think it clicked probably when he left West Virginia University. He graduated one semester. That was good. Not too many people do that. But I knew that he wanted to do something special when he got into snowboarding. It was special, Tried to be into the golf business. He almost went to UNLV here on the golf thing. But golf is, like you said, it's a very hard sport to get into, and it's very hard to become a golf pro now. They made it very difficult. But I knew he'd get into something he liked, and he did, and he's doing very well. And my tears coming on my eyes.
It's hard. It's hard for me not to tear up too. It's so sweet. So how does that make you? I know sometimes our parents tend to come down on us, and we don't always hear their proud moments. Hearing that, how does that make you feel and your accomplishments?
Well, I mean, I think everybody seeks their parents' approval. And again, I just have to stress the appreciation, because there's people that, have accomplished far more than I have in esports for far longer, and their parents really don't appreciate the greatness and the work and the sacrifice and the effort. And so to hear that from him is, of course it tugs at my heartstrings. It's hard to, you got to kind of choke back. I just wish more parents would understand the full passion and sacrifice of esports, because it would make it a lot easier on, the players, the casters, the entire scene, because, it's always much, much better, I feel. I think anybody would agree, when you have your parents' support to do something rather than try to rebel against. And, esports is just like anything else. There's a lot of negative connotation around video games in the press. They love to point at them a lot, but they never seem to point at the highlight the fact that you can make a career out of this, the fact that you can go ahead and come to and travel the world, see new places, experience new cultures. Esports has given opportunities to kids that were maybe found as socially awkward or not the most popular kids in high school, and it's now given them a voice and a stage to appear on. And I think that's just fantastic. I just hope that I pray that there's more parents out there like mine that don't understand computers, that don't understand esports, but have faith in their kids and appreciate the hard work that their kids put into this.
Well, that's awesome. I'm still kind of a little choked up from before. Quickly, I want to get into EMG. Everybody wants to know. There's so many deals that are going on, and can you give us a little bit more insight on what how the deals work, what's going on? I know that Nick and Dan just got signed with TT Esports, and I think it was one of the biggest deals.
It was a good deal. I think everybody was happy. I think they're happy. I think Nick and Dan are happy. So, yeah, no, I mean, so EMG, I got to say, so essentially, again, I don't know whether I'm good or just lucky, but, Brian Ballsbaugh could not be a better mentor to me. I mean, so when you ask how the deals work, essentially every deal is unique and it's a case-by-case basis. And, so we have John Herminio and James Sullivan and Brian Ballsbaugh, and we'll all sit down and we'll take a look at the deal, we'll break it down, and we always go for the win-win scenario. So Brian is in familiar territory here because it's much like poker was in 2003, 2002, around that area. So it's a different product, but essentially the licensing deals and everything is relatively the same. And I think that, it's our attitude and our goal to provide a win-win situation to where, the companies are seeing a great return on investment, and, the players and the casters and all of our talent is, using products that they genuinely like and genuinely would like to design. So, I feel like there's a lot more that can be done in esports in terms of improvement. There's always improvement that could be made for specializations in keyboards and mice and headsets. And who better to go to than the talent to do that?
So I'm going to give you a tough question here. I've noticed that the majority of the deals have been geared toward, you have a number of clients that range from first-person shooters like Halo to obviously StarCraft.
Sure.
And you have casters and players. But I've noticed the majority of your deals have been towards Nick and Dan. Can you elaborate on that, or what is the space not ready, or are more things headed for Q1 next year?
Well, there is a lot headed for Q1 next year. That is a very great question, and it's one I'm not afraid to answer. I'll be completely honest. I think everybody in esports in the space knows that Nick and Dan are the best ambassadors right now. I think everybody can fairly acknowledge that. Their Twitter following is amazing. The guys work very, very hard. They've sacrificed much to get to where they are. It wasn't handed to them by any means. So, of course, the focus was going to be with Nick and Dan because it's really the easy way for us to the path of least resistance in terms of explaining what esports is to non-endemic sponsors, to people that aren't in the scene, to people that want to get into esports but don't know how. Nick and Dan are a natural progression. And I feel like, through Nick and Dan, we're able to reach out to companies that otherwise wouldn't get it or understand it. And that's going to obviously trickle down across all different, games and titles to all talent. And I hope that my hope is that it actually trickles down, and not just for EMG, but for everybody. I mean, I think that there's enough non-endemic money out there that, everybody can, make enough money to survive and to actually thrive in esports.
Great. Thank you so much. I know that you're really busy, and I appreciate your time so much. Before we wrap up the interview, is there any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, so to obviously all of the clients at EMG, Handsome Nerd Network, which is fantastic. I'm really excited about that. But the biggest shout-out that I feel would be most appropriate to give would be to my dad, because I love him so much, and I wouldn't be here without him. So that's my biggest shout-out.
And Robert, anyone you'd like to shout out?
Oh, just shout out Mr. Toby, Mr. Tumba. The Tumba 2 is who he is, so I hope he keeps going the way he's going right now. And to you, Lily, is your name Lily? Yes. Got a tear in my eye again.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. You guys are so great, and I love all the love you guys have for each other. amazing to see that. It's not something we get to see every single day. Thank you so much for watching the Handsome Nerd Network. I'm Lily. Keep watching our interviews on our brand new YouTube channel.